Hi everyone. This is going to be just a review of what we've been talking about throughout the last couple of weeks. So we started with Paul. We know that Paul's birth name is Saul. He changes it later, as opposed to in the Old Testament where God is changing names. He is a Roman citizen from Tarsus. He was highly educated Pharisee. He strongly disliked the followers of Christ or followers of the way. He was involved in persecuting Christians. He arrested them and testified against them, never actually killed them. He was present at the death of Saint Stephen, the first Christian martyr, who was stoned to death. So we know that he has this conversion experience where he's on his way to persecute, arrest more Christians or more followers of Jesus, and he's blinded. He falls off his horse. He hears Jesus saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? He's then escorted by Ananias to where he finds out more about Jesus, and Ananias is washes away or was able to heal him, and he Barnabas baptizes him, and he begins his mission. So not everyone believes Saul was changed. He actually has to go into quite some depth before they actually believe him. uh, the apostles are angry because they know who he is, and he really has to convince them that um, he is true. He truly believes in Jesus now. So he's called by a missionary. He's called to be a missionary. Um, Not all of the apostles were missionaries. Some were more localized than others. Uh, Paul went on 4 missionary journeys. The first three are the main three. So we know the missionaries are someone who travels around preaching the gospel or the good news of Jesus Christ. So we know first journey, he went to Cyprus, Antioch, and other cities in modern day Turkey and Syria. Second journey, which was his longest journey, he established a center of Christian faith in the city of Corinth. These are the Corinthians. Those are the people who live in Corinth are the Corinthians, and then the third is the he returned to Asia Minor and set up another center of Christian faith in Ephesus, which are the Ephesians. And then he returned home to Rome, where he is imprisoned and later beheaded. If you were a missionary during the time of St. Paul, there were some advantages, like we've talked about. Excuse me. There was peace. There was no fighting. They had really good roads. That was the one good thing about the Romans. They had good roads because they were riding around on horses and chariots, so of course they needed better roads. And they had safe harbors because they have lots of boating and stuff there. Everyone spoke Greek, so it was easy to communicate. We did talk about the two main challenges of the followers of Christ. There's tension between Jews and the Jewish followers of Christ because everyone thought that if you believed in Jesus, you were basically a blasphemer. Taking you were calling Jesus God. Obviously, he wasn't a God. He was at least maybe a prophet. He was a nice guy, but he was not the Messiah because that's not who they were looking for. Because let's face it, somebody who's dying on the cross isn't isn't going to be their Messiah. And this is why Saint Stephen dies. He would rather die than deny his belief in Jesus Christ. So then they've got some tensions with the Roman authorities. At first, Jews did not have to worship the Roman gods, so they didn't ignored the followers of Christ, but later became suspicious because of the teachings that they were following of dignity and equality of all people. The Romans were not. They refused to believe everybody was equal, and they also feared it might be a revolutionary political movement. So that was a problem too. So we've got the councils, the first of many councils of the church. This is the first one. It starts in 40 AD. We've got Paul and Barnabas who are out on missionary and they encounter a problem. As we've talked about, Paul is the apostle to the Gentiles. He's going out and talking to the Gentiles and telling them about Jesus, and they love Jesus. But the problem is that the first followers were Jewish, as we've talked about. They had the tradition of circumcision, and they weren't sure if they that these Gentiles had to be circumcised, which obviously is a problem. So the big question is, do non-Jews, Gentiles, have to become Jews before they become Christian? So, I mean, Jesus was Jewish, so that was their argument. So this is a problem because, well, it's adult men that would have to be circumcised. They took this to the apostles, the presbyters, and the decision was to keep marriage laws, keep the Ten Commandments, get rid of circumcision, because it really wasn't necessary to become a Jew then become a Christian. All right, next up, we've talked about the Gospels. I'm just going to move along here. This is not the first time you've heard this. So we have the epistles, which are the letters to early Christian churches. This is mainly from St. Paul and a few others. We've got the Acts of the Apostles, which we've been reading, and the book of Revelation. Magisterium. A magisterium is the living teaching office of the church, made up of the Pope and the bishops. It's their job to interpret scripture and tradition. We talked about how that worked. They use letters, statements, and documents to teach us. The scripture and tradition that they interpret makes up the deposit of faith. And that is it for the little review. Hope you have a good night, a good weekend, and study for your test on Tuesday.